Why do I do what I do? I grew up in Indiana, and my father's family was from Romania, from Transylvania area. They lived in Terre Haute. And my grandfather worked in the steel mills. Very, very labor-intensive process. We used to take family trips over to visit my grandmother, my great-grandmother. I knew her. And my father, because of that environment, he couldn't wait to get out of there as quickly as he could. So he joined the Navy, and he ended up being a nurse in the Navy. And later on, he worked for Eli Lilly and Company as uh, a white-collar worker for the rest of his life. When he was 13, when I was 13, I was in the bathroom next to him, and he started coughing up blood in the sink. Well, that's it's like unbelievable memory that I have. It is shocking to me. And this is the first sign of lung cancer, which he had. And he had various kinds of treatments. Obviously, at age 13, there was nothing I could do to help him. And the treatments, and it gave him 5 years of extra life. And then he ended up dying there. Not this is my home. This is my grandmother's home, great grandmother's home. But he ended up dying at home, essentially skin and bones, and having had incredible personality changes because of the degeneration of his brain due to the metastatic lung cancer he had. Now, this is my Uncle Russ and my aunt, my mother's sister. My Uncle Russ was a role model. He was a medical doctor. And he told me ever since I was little that I was going to be a doctor. And he kind of looked to me to take over his practice. My father died, as I said, a week before I graduated from high school. And that summer I worked with my uncle as his surgical assistant, where we did all kinds of internal medicine operations, removals of cancers, gallbladder resection, hernia repairs, all kinds of cancers, breast cancer, liver cancer, large intestine, colon cancer. It was an incredible experience that I had, but I decided I did not want to become that kind of doctor, so I went into philosophy instead. In elementary school, middle school, and part of high school, I played saxophone. I started out as clarinet. I was bad at it, terrible at it. And so then they moved me up to tenor saxophone and baritone saxophone. So I played that, and I was actually pretty good. I was on stage band. I was first chair playing on stage in the school gymnasium. I remember that well, being quite nervous up on stage. But I never had my own instruments because we didn't have the money to buy them. And so they were always rental. And so as a result of my clinical practice, I was able to actually get my own instrument, a tenor saxophone, which I paid off over a couple years. And then I joined, this is Herbert Mims. He's a professor of music at one of the community colleges here in this area. And so I joined a jazz improvisation class, which I was in for about 2.5 years, which was really, really, really fun. It just made me realize how much connection I have to music. And it also, because of that musical training with the woodwind instrument, I have incredible breath. Deep breathing and meditative type breathing is something that one learns in as a woodwind player. And so that served me well. When I went to college, I had the opportunity to start to learn Tai Chi at age 18. This was just right after I had done all the surgeries that summer after my father passed away. So I started studying Tai Chi, and I started studying Japanese. And so 2 years later, I went to Japan, and I started studying more about the energy movements. After Japan, the second time I went there, first time was as a foreign exchange, second time was as a scholarship from the Japanese government. I decided, like some other friends, to travel through other parts of the world. So for 2 years, I was a low-budget backpack traveler with a budget of $3 a day. Now, I, like everyone on this planet, have had illnesses. So when I was traveling, I got Bali fever, which was something like malaria-like symptoms, but it wasn't so bad. But I was laid out. I was laid out pretty badly for about a week. And luckily, there were some friends around to help care for me. In Sri Lanka, I got a cut on my foot from coral, and eventually that turned into a really bad infection. And I was traveling. Once I got back up to Kathmandu, this is a stupa in Nepal, at Poker Lake. When I was in Kathmandu, I went to the ER, emergency room, waited in line for like 5 hours, got some antibiotics, and that helped for about a week. It got better, and then it came back even worse, and my entire leg was swollen. My whole left leg, foot, calf was swollen, tender, just nasty looking. So I checked myself into the hospital and got IV antibiotics and other fluids. And when I got out, it still wasn't where it should be. It was still very bad. So I asked around, and everyone said, go see Dr. Manavacharya, who was an Ayurvedic doctor in Kathmandu. So I hobbled my way down there, waited for a little while, and he took a look at it. He says, I can take care of it. So I go, great, that's whatever. And he said I had leprosy. I didn't care what he called it, as long as he knew what to do to help it, because the other things I'd taken from the Western hospital had not done the trick. So I took these things that looked like little rabbit pellets for a month, and I wrapped my foot, kept it dry, put this Ayurvedic powder on the open wounds and some avocado oil and wrapped it. And after a month, it was totally healed up, and I didn't have any recurrence. So I realized the power of natural medicine, herbal medicine at that point. So it just made me more aware that that is the direction that I wanted to go in medicine. Just like the Tai Chi told me, look to energy and understand energy flows in the body and health. Fast forward to having two daughters now. They're older than this now, but they're two really strong, really intelligent, sensitive, funny girls who I adore and I'm just crazy about. And I've just been so fortunate that due to the processes I've created, I've been able to set an example for them. Independent, strong thinkers, sensitive, caring individuals. And have to give a lot of credit to their mother, too, who's also Israeli. We're divorced, but we're still on very good terms. Their mother. And because of growing up in a Israeli American family, they both are bilingual in Hebrew. Now, I speak Japanese fluently, and so I wanted to give my daughters as much of an idea of my life as well as their mom's life, because they've been to Israel almost every year of their life to visit. So I was able to take both of them to Japan on student exchange programs at different times, and share this love that I have for the Asian culture. I also, before I moved to California to practice natural medicine and acupuncture, I worked for the National Cancer Institute for 5 years in Philadelphia, translating Japanese research on cancers. This is another aunt on my father's side of the family who had diabetes. I went to visit her. One day she knew exactly who I was, and I hadn't seen her for years. The next day, she had no idea who I was. She didn't recognize her daughters frequently when they would visit. So she was in a nursing home for a long time. Her eyesight was poor. That's a side effect of diabetes, is damage to the retina. And her memory was also bad. And blood sugar imbalances are a component of dementia, Alzheimer's, and brain degeneration, brain dysfunction. People who are diabetic lose sight, and they also lose orientation when their blood sugar's off. So this is one of the components of my program in understanding people's blood sugar balance and helping to balance that out to help prevent the underlying sugar imbalance causes that can damage the nervous system. I've written 2 best-selling books on the brain. One is Super Brain, Maximize Your Brain Health for a Better Life, and the other one is Outsmarting the Dementia Epidemic, which is an expansion upon the TV segments that I have done in over 24 stations around the country on how to prevent and avoid Alzheimer's and dementia. My mission is to prevent 1 million cases of Alzheimer's and dementia because it is an epidemic. It is truly an epidemic. 1 out of 3 Americans dies with dementia, and 1 out of 8 or 9 Americans has Alzheimer's or dies with Alzheimer's. No, this is my daughter and my niece I don't want them to end up in that. I don't want them to have to take care of me and to use the legacy that I would normally provide to them, instead using it to take care of me in a dementia or a memory care facility. I don't want that to happen for me, and I don't want it to happen for others. I have a podcast called Natural Solutions with Dr. J, and I've interviewed many, many, many people in the memory care and the Alzheimer's community who take care of people, and it is not something you want. It is a massive waste of resources when my three-step approach is something that could potentially extend your life 10, 15, 20 years and give you a quality of life that does not rob you of your memory, does not rob you of your relationships with your children, your grandchildren, and even your pets, who you don't even know who they are when they come to visit if you have Alzheimer's or dementia. That's why I created the Brain Wealth and Longevity Program, and I invite you to join me on this journey to better health, higher quality living, better functioning, and potential to transform your health and vitality both physiologically and emotionally in transformative ways.